Hello, welcome to Nashville Savvy. We're coming from Nashville, Tennessee, live this morning. I'm Megan Lee Pitseedlik with the Pamphleteer. It is May 6th, and we're giving you your weekly rundown of all things Nashville, only the savvy things in Nashville, of course. But before we jump into our first topic, which is all about Justin Jones, I wanted to talk a little bit about Morgan Wallen and the Morgan Wallen effect, because he had 3 concerts over the weekend. I'm not too far from the Nissan Stadium, so I got the full brunt of the traffic debacle. If you were anywhere near Nashville on Thursday, you know that you could hardly make it through. You definitely couldn't make it on and off the on ramps here near downtown, near the stadium. But I was trying to make it to a rehearsal dinner, and a cop stopped me at a stoplight and was like, just don't even try to travel through and get on the highway here. Just keep going. So I had to drive out of Nashville to go where I was going. But clearly, despite the love to hate relationship that the media has with Morgan Wallen, it does not hurt him in the least when it comes to his fans. Over the weekend, he had a packed stadium all 3 nights. We also heard from some reporting up from the Tennessean last week, or actually over the weekend, that some of his fans were holding up signs to honor his chair throwing by throwing a chair off stage. Of course, he got arrested for throwing a chair off the top of Eric Church's bar a couple weeks ago, which was absolutely reckless and dangerous and almost hit 2 cops. But clearly, it just adds to Morgan Wallen's lore. And since then, Eric Church has added a plaque at his bar downtown that says, quote, "Don't even think about it. You're not Morgan Wallen." And you have to laugh at the lore that has now surrounded this new, I guess, old schoolish in his antics country star. And during his Saturday concert, he also announced that he'll be opening his own bar. It's going to be called what is his bar called? This Bar in Tennessee Kitchen. And he's going to open it up over Memorial Day weekend. So now all of his antics can be done in the confines of his own downtown honky tonk. So whether you love him, you hate him, you got a mullet because of him, or a mustache now, he's kind of proved that he's here to stay. And every time they talk crap about him in the media, it only seems to rise his star a little bit higher. But we're going to get right into our topics for today. First, we're starting out with Justin Jones, because last week there was a hearing about the challenge. If you weren't following along, Justin Jones, who is a state rep here in Tennessee, you know him from the Tennessee 3 and the protests that he did, that he got kicked out of the legislature, but then he got reinstated to the legislature, and he's been all over national news. You've probably seen him talking on CNN or meeting former President Obama, et cetera, et cetera. He has his own lore, Justin Jones says, but his opponent in the upcoming race for his district, District 52, which is a Nashville district, was challenged by Laura Nelson, who is the Republican running against him on the ticket. And she challenged some of the legitimacy of his signatures. So you have to get 25 signatures. It's a petition to run. So basically, she challenged that. She challenged some of the signatures, saying that they weren't valid, basically trying to get him kicked off the ballot. We had a hearing last Thursday. It was all over. People were tweeting about it who are locals, because it was long, arduous, very interesting. And it was low-hanging fruit. Sometimes, especially the local council here, they get beat up for their council meetings and some of the stuff that they say, but they were more than happy to dish it back out during this election commission hearing that happened last week. During the meeting, Jones, of course, came out guns a-blazing. He said that he's coming before this commission today to say that this challenge is not only frivolous, but it's part of a pattern of this political harassment that's been used in this very building. And he called out the chair of the commission, the Davis County Election Commission, for basically talking with Laura Nelson before the proceedings, and he wanted him to recuse himself from the proceedings because he had correspondence with Laura Nelson before she asked for legal guidance as to how to challenge the signatures on the petition, and left him a message. And he had filed some type of FOIA, got the information. He actually played the message during this hearing for everybody to listen to, asked the chair to recuse himself from the decision-making process. That didn't happen. But Jones did clarify that this is a quote from him, that one thing I've done in every vote that I've taken is to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. That being said, it was quite a statement considering the fact that the freshman rep only had the minimum 25 signatures. So the reason this came down to the wire was because even if one of those signatures were put into question, he would have been off the ballot. He's had a few years to get these signatures. He's obviously popular. He's the incumbent. People know who he is, but he only submitted the minimum amount of signatures needed. So it really came down to he had very little absolutely no wiggle room actually to Nelson's challenges. At the end of it, all of the challenges were dismissed, and he is good to go. He will be instated on the ballot. Stephen Elliott over at the Banner has covered originally some of this drama, and during closing out during the hearing the other night, Stephen Elliott was taking some video of Justin Jones, and Justin Jones called him out he said that, some of these outlets that are complicit in pushing out these fake narratives, and the local reporter came back out on Twitter and was like, so this is the part where Jones called me fake news. But basically, Elliott was just covering the drama that was unfolding and what was happening, and the fact that he only had 25 signatures. So it was really kind of looked a little bit irresponsible, something that we've seen come up and over and over again with Jones, and his time is the state representative here for District 52. So he's back on the ballot, though, so you will see him running his campaigns. I do believe that a week ago or so, he fired his treasurer. And I think he might have found a new one already, but in the meantime, he can't do any campaign fundraising until he has a new treasurer. So it's always something. There's always some drama with Justin Jones. We'll see what he does over the summer. We'll see how much he travels abroad instead of staying in the state of Tennessee. We'll see what unfolds as we go into this race. I know that Nelson is not someone to back down. She's run for quite a few different things. She's part of the Davidson County Republican. It's the DCRP here party, and she's not afraid to obviously challenge Justin Jones. So we'll see if it turns into some type of media frenzy once we get closer to the election in November. Our next topic is recidivism, and it's something that we've talked about so much, especially after the tragedy that happened with the Belmont campus shooting of Jillian Ludwig. If you don't recall that shooting back at the end of last year, a Belmont student, Ludwig, she was shot by a repeat offender who was skipping on parole and had been arrested multiple times for violent offenses, but was let off the hook because of his mental health capacity. The loophole, though, that kept getting him off the hook, but not into any type of care facility, was that he was not competent enough to stand trial, but too competent to be involuntarily submitted to any type of mental health facility. They have since passed a law called Jillian's Law that kind of addresses this. And you could look into some of that. We've written about it in the pamphleteer, but that was something that was put through by Leader Lamberth. He worked arduously on this bill that passed this year. Basically, there's a couple things in there. One of them being that if you are deemed too mentally incompetent to stand trial, then you're going to have to kind of plea insanity so that you can be involuntarily committed to a mental health facility. But since then, we've also been paying attention to other recidivism, and Fox 17, they have a couple great reporters over there that really look into this stuff, especially the juvenile recidivism. We see that younger people get easier sentencing or no sentencing at all for things like Grand Theft Auto or stealing firearms. And so they're recruited often by gangs and other, I don't know, criminal organizations to do their bidding because they know that these kids will get off the hook. So they'll have them go steal guns for them. They'll get arrested for it, but then they'll be out a month later and they get arrested doing the same thing. And we keep seeing this pattern of recidivism. Last week, Fox 17 released an interview with Chief John Drake. He's the MNPD police chief here in Nashville. And he came out just fed up with this revolving door of repeat offenders. And he kind of placed the blame, and not so many words, at the feet of the entire system, not the system of them actually apprehending the suspects, but what happens after the suspects are apprehended and how they're just re-released. And then they keep having to basically arrest the same people over and over again who are wreaking havoc on the city. So during this interview, he actually covered a case that what happened recently where, let me look, it was a violent felon with 105 offenses under his belt that they had in custody for recent charges of rape and kidnapping. And this is a quote that he said to Fox 17, "You would think somewhere down the line he would have been held accountable. It still would have been taken something a little harsher, like probation, maybe some wraparound services. He was mentally incompetent, if he was mentally incompetent or had some issues, or just spending some more time incarcerated." So they're really exasperated. We have brought this up during the media roundtables, the Pamphleteer has, with Mayor O'Connell, because the left-leaning progressive, I guess, what would you call it? Their narratives seem to revolve around, gun ownership and not allowing people who are criminals to be able to own guns, and also putting stricter guardrails on those who are legally owning firearms. We've seen it with them kind of trying to set up some laws to punish people who aren't locking up their guns in their cars because there's so much car theft where they're breaking windows and stealing the guns out of cars downtown. So they're trying to put the onus a little bit more on the gun owner. But when we pressed him about the recidivism and this issue that we keep seeing, he did acknowledge that it's not MMPD's lack or failure to apprehend the criminals. So he agrees with Chief Drake here. And we do have an article about how sometimes MMPD is used as the patsy for some of this stuff when the policy doesn't seem to be addressing the crime problem downtown. But O'Connell also agreed that we should probably look at the whole system a little bit more closely. And here's a quote from, I think it was back in November. He's like, this is going to involve some initiative and initial review of the criminal legal process that will involve the district attorney's office and the judiciary. Now, Drake agrees with him, but he says it's going to take the entire justice system, and he wants it to include the parole board, the DA, public defenders, all hands on deck to address this recidivism. Moreover, the officers on the ground who are having to face the victims of these violent criminals who keep getting re-released to do more crimes in Nashville, they're just so upset and tired with having to face these victims of these crimes. And Chief Drake said, on our side of the fence, we're tired of having those conversations and that we want it to stop. So that conversation has kind of taken we're going into this new realm where MMPD now is taking a clear stance of, hey, we're doing our job, but we need these criminals to have to have repercussions. We can't just keep allowing these people back out on the streets after they keep repeat offending. So hopefully some of that will be addressed. Of course, as you recall, we have the LPRs that are going to be put up after we have some type of agreement over vendors, and that will address some more of the stolen car stuff. We also saw a lot of drug and firearm apprehensions after we had the pilot program over the summer. So we're slowly but surely working towards addressing the violent crimes and rates that are happening here in Nashville as our city continues to grow. So that was my quick and dirty about that conversation from last week. And I want to close on the budget. So this is Freddie O'Connell's first ever budget proposal, and we are going into budget season now. I want to remind you all that, one, we do have a council meeting this week, and that's going to happen tomorrow night. We're going to look at some more bills that they're passing through, but they are now looking at the budget as well. Though the mayor gives a proposed budget, the council has until June 30th to make changes and pass a different budget. They still have to stay within the parameters, of the actual budget. You can't go over. You have to start, if they want to move around money, they have to find it in other places, and they have to make those changes, and they have to pass that through their own body in order to change the budget that Mayor O'Connell has now put forward. If they don't come to an agreement before June 30th, which I've never seen happen, but I'm sure could happen, then the mayor's budget will just go forward as is. That being said, we usually see a few changes. We start to see some haggling when it comes to the budget season, the budget process, as government workers and teachers, and they start to request certain things, and they want some more wiggle room, and they want some more cost of living increases, and we'll have those conversations. We'll see them kind of unfold over the next 2 months. Already this budget is $3.27 billion in spending. It is $700,000 less than the last year's budget. And for property owners, there was no property tax increase. So that was some good news. The first year that Mayor Cooper got into office after being elected saying he wouldn't raise property taxes, he ended up raising them 34%, which was unprecedented. So I'm sure that people were happy to see that the property taxes would not be increased in Freddie O'Connell's first ever budget. In addition to that, we also are seeing O'Connell addressing some of these gaps, these funding gaps left behind by COVID funds. So we had the ARPA money, we had some of this rescue plan funding, we have grant money that came from the federal government to kind of reinvigorate and boost businesses and, education systems and the health departments of local governments across America, but they were limited time funding. So some of the stuff that was started with these funds, now, to stay alive, you're going to have to tap into your own coffers, so to speak. So you see some adjustments made by Freddie O'Connell in this budget to try to make up for some of that disparity between the one-time COVID funding in schools, which is a good first step towards trying to reconcile that gap that's going to show up over the next few years as that COVID money runs out. I also wanted to talk about some of the drama that's already happening as far as the Metro workers themselves. So this was another banner report that was done last week about the unions here for Metro jobs. So the mayor did put forward a plan that would have a 3.5% cost of living adjustment for Metro workers, and he increased the minimum wage to $20 per hour for all Metro employees. That being said, HR recommended 3.5%, but the unions recommended 4%. So now there's already some haggling over whether the cost of living adjustment should go up, and perhaps the council might do some adjustments there. These are the types of tit for tat discussions that we'll see over the next few weeks. So if you are paying attention or care about what's happening in the budget, or you're a Metro worker or a teacher or anybody who wants to know where your tax dollars are going, please stay tuned as we cover this budget process at the Pamphleteer. We'll keep it quick and simple for you guys, so you don't have to waste hours of your life watching every single Metro City Council meeting. Though it is interesting and funny, sometimes you could turn it into a game. That's what I do here at home sometimes. But we'll be watching as Freddie's budget is picked apart by the council members. For the most part, the council members that I've seen make comments about O'Connell's budget have been pretty positive. They're happy for the starting point that he gave them, and they will go forward with the changes that they see fit, depending on who they want to, who's coming at them with wanting differences and changes in the budget. So there's your quick rundown for the week. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, since you're starting it off right here at Nashville Savvy. Besides that, as always, I hope you guys stay informed. Have a good day.